My GE Cafe gas range oven light won't turn off.
Do you know the model of your GE range? How old is it?
Cgs985setass.
How long has this been going on with your GE range? What have you tried so far?
Just today.
Anything else we should know to help you best?
I tried turning the circuit off and on.
Hello, this is Mark. I'll be assisting you today. Ignore the phone call request pop-ups, unless you want a phone call. Those are automatically sent by the site, not me. You will see them pop up. If you do not want a phone call, ignore them. On your oven, there is a light switch on the door. Plunger switch that when you open the door, it turns on the light in oven. Often there is also another light switch on the control panel. Either the plunger switch is bad and needs to be replaced or the control panel is bad. That depends on if you have a dedicated light switch on the panel for the oven light. Here is the plunger switch part that you want to check to see if it is bad. https://www.appliancepartspros.com/GE plunger switch WB24K10068844842232.html. It is located on the top left of door frame edge. With door open you can see the plunger switch poking out. To test it, you will want to remove it and remove the wires and check the switch for proper functionality. You will want an ohmmeter to check it. If you do not have an oven light switch on the control panel, some have this, some don't, then you know for sure that this plunger switch is faulty and will need to be replaced.
I tried pressing the bar linker switch and if pressed lightly the light goes off, but if pressed completely the light remains on. I tried pressing the plunger switch.
That is a faulty switch. You want to replace it to remedy this.
It's not a control panel problem.
Do you mean the light switch on the panel? Or the one on the door?
The one on the door. The button on the panel also does not work. It goes from a bright light to a dim light. I think the dim light is when it's supposed to go off.
Okay. You mentioned that you press lightly and it goes off. But when pressed more, it remains on. Is that the switch on the door you mean?
Yeah. But I also press the button on the control panel and the light goes from bright to dim.
Okay. Then the issue is with the door plunger switch if that is happening. The switch on the panel usually does that.
Okay, so how do I fix the door plunger switch?
That can cause issues with the switch on the panel. So you want to replace the plunger switch part I sent you the link to. One moment, I will see if I can find a video. Not many videos on how to replace this part. Here is one that will give you a basic idea of how to replace it. https://u2.b/c54ncnu8. You want to access the back side of plunger switch to remove the wires and retaining clip. So you need to get top off as shown, then access behind the switch.
My range's control panel is on the front.
I mentioned that I could not find many videos for this repair. That gives you a basic idea of how to replace it as I mentioned. On your model, You are going to need to remove the top parts, burners and such. Then lift up the top part to access the back side of switch. They don't put it in an easy location to access and replace. You can thank the engineers for that. But I am certain that the door plunger switch is the faulty part here. Here is the diagram of the area. Might give you a better idea of where it is at. Part number 233. Another diagram of the top part you need to remove. Remove the grills. Remove the burner caps. Remove the screws below burner caps. And any other screws you see there. Then lift up the top part, so you can access the back side of the plunger switch. To replace it. I'm not sure that this model needs to have the igniters removed. If so, there will be screws for them to be removed. It's easy to know how to get this top off if I can see it with my eyes, but by memory I can only tell you what I remember from many other models. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions or clarify anything for you. Doesn't affect what you pay at all, just whether or not the site pays me for my time. You can give your rating by selecting one of the 5 stars located on the top right of the question page. Have a great day.
Hi. I received the plunger switch today. I still have to get the ohmmeter. Can I send you a picture of my gas range to get more specifics of what needs to be unscrewed and how to use the ohmmeter?
There are several videos on YouTube about accessing the switch. I am one of those techs that knows how to disassemble appliances based on seeing it and how it is put together. They make so many changes over the years on models that I have no way of knowing what they have changed on this model. But if I have a decent photo, I might be able to help you with that.
Okay, I'll send you a photo.
This is a diagram of the top so you know what needs to come off. You want to remove all the top grills, burner caps and such. Then you need to remove the panel below those burners. The plunger switch is accessible beneath it on the left side.
This is the range I have. Is it the same as the one in the diagram? Customer attachment January 3, 2020 10:21 and 48 seconds p.m.
That is the model number you provided. You might be able to remove the left panel on side of range, that would maybe give you access to the plunger switch.
Customer attachment January 3, 2020 10:23 and 1 second p.m. I shouldn't remove the top.
The other way I think you can access the plunger switch it to unplug range, then remove side screws to the front control panel. Then sometimes you can reach in and change the plunger switch that way. You might not need to remove the top. If this is the one I remember, the panel comes off and you can access switch from there. Reaching in from top left.
Do I have to push the range out of its original spot?
You shouldn't need to actually entirely remove all the connections. Once you get the main part of panel detached, you can then usually place the panel on top of range, with most wires still attached. That should give you access to switch. If not, then at least you will be able to tell what needs to come off to access it. You may not have to pull range out much. Maybe a few inches is good, you just want to be able to access the panel screws at side of panel. You have be a bit of an investigator on these things. It's too difficult to remember how every model of appliance comes apart. But from all the ranges I have worked on, I know the panel needs to come off anyway. Then you can get a better idea of whether or not you can reach switch. They usually don't make that too difficult to get to. If you do have to remove any wires, take a photo so you know what goes back where. It's not easy to figure out where a loose wire goes when there are more than one.
Is it easier to just remove the top of the stove? That means I wouldn't have to move the range out. Also, how do I use the ohmmeter?
Here is a video on testing a switch. https://u2.b/kbpexip_0 plunger switch is similar to this. To be honest, I diagnose issues with appliances. I'm not a good teacher on how to test parts if you don't know how already. If you can't pull a panel or move this range, not much I can do for that either. You want to remove the panel, even if you have to remove the top part. So just start there, then you can take it one step at a time. If I was there myself, the range would need to be pulled out anyway, and that is what I would do, or I wouldn't work on it.
Take off top panel. I can do that, but will I have access to the plunger switch after that?
You need to remove the front panel with the knobs on it. Screws on the side. Then you may be able to access the switch through there. If you want to remove the top below the burners, you still have to remove the front panel. Start there. If you can't pull out range, then you won't be able to do this repair. It has to be pulled out enough to access screws on side of front panel to remove it.
Oek.
If you really have no experience with working on appliances, this might be a bit challenging.
Really? How will I use the ohmmeter?
I gave you a video on how to use it. I explained that I diagnose issues with appliances. That is how this site works. I am not a teacher of how to use a multimeter for beginners. I gave you a link to a video that shows how to use one. There are a lot of videos on YouTube to use a multimeter for beginners.
Okay, I'll look for videos on how to use the ohmmeter.
There are some really good ones on YouTube.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/ythi.